You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun. Doug Collins here for the podcast. Glad to have you with us. Keith Marks with us from Hunter Nation. Getting ready for a great episode. We just been chatting here about bows and everybody going around. It's been good, fun. After the break, we're going to get into it. Not just hunting. It's a big time. We're a little over 80 days out from the election. We're almost 30 days out, though, from ballots being in mailboxes, and people need to understand that. We're going to talk about what hunters mean. The hunters are a great part of our podcast. You love it when Waddy's on. We love it when these folks come on. Well, we're going to talk about not only preserving our hunting, talking about hunting, but also how do we get out and make sure our vote counts, that hunters are actually heard. And Keith with Hunter Nation is going to be with us. So just right after this break, we'll be right back. We're going to dive into this conversation. You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of the box stores or the shopping channels as the way they used to. They've been part of the cancel culture, so they want to pass the savings directly on to you by having a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just one product company. With the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about that. So to get the word out, I want to invite my listeners to check out the $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-pillow use My Pillows are just $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. There's 6-pack of towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels. You guessed it, just $25. And for the first time ever, the My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. All orders over $75 will see free shipping too. This amazing offer won't last long, so go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Collins, that's COLLINS, or call 800-986-3994 today. That's promo code Collins. Hey, inflation's at a 40-year high. The stock market looks more uncertain than ever. The new central bank digital currency is on its way and could be the government's ultimate surveillance tool against Americans. It looks like the government is playing games with your savings and retirement. So what are you going to do to help protect yourself? Did you know that you can have physical gold and silver into your IRA or 401k with zero tax or penalties? Millions of Americans are doing this right now for protection, and you should think about it too. A company I trust and recommend is Preserve Gold. They will go all over your options and make sure the process of acquiring precious metals is simple and easy. So if you're looking to help protect your retirement with a trustworthy company, request your free investment guide from the experts at Preserve Gold. Preserve Gold is accredited by the Better Business Bureau, and they have hundreds of 5-star reviews, so you know that you're in good hands. Just text Collins, COLLINS, to 50505. As an exclusive offer for my listeners, they'll get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualifying purchase on a retirement account rollover. So don't wait. Text Collins to 50505 today and get your free gold and silver investment guide and take the first step. Again, text Collins to 50505 to get your free guide from the good people at Preserve Gold. All right. Keith, thanks, buddy, for being on. I am so excited. You and I have sort of traveled same circles in a lot of ways and got together a few weeks ago. And want to just talk today about what y'all do, Hunter Nation, get people involved in Hunter Nation as we go forward. Tell me sort of back your history. I always love to give people that background. That's the great part about a podcast. And how you got to Hunter Nation.
You know, I'm going to tell you that, but I got to tell you, Doug, you know, I hang around with a lot of people that they call them celebrities, did a TV show with Shawn Michaels, best friends with Ted Nugent. But I'm actually a little starstruck talking to you because you were like my favorite guest of all time on when I'd watch you on Fox. Yeah. Because one, you take no BS, and you know you bring that just common sense approach to politics that really resonates with an old bow hunter like myself, which is a great segue into what Hunter Nation is. There's two components to Hunter Nation, Doug. There's the policy side of it, where we're out there every day trying to be the unifying voice of the American hunter, winning policy fights all across the country. We're the group that is right now working closely with Tom Tiffany and got his Trust the Science Act bill through the House of Representatives. And for those of you listening that don't know what that is it's the bill that will get the gray wolf delisted in the continental 48 states without judicial review. Why is that important that you have the language in there, no judicial review? Because every time that U.S. Fish and Wildlife removed the wolf from the endangered species list, which quite frankly, they should have been years and years ago, because It's a great success story, as you know. The wolf is completely recovered. They're not endangered in any stretch of the imagination. Yet every time they get delisted, the animal activist groups, the anti-hunting groups with all their big war chests, they find a liberal activist judge, just like they recently did in California, and they put it back on the endangered species list. So right now we're working with that bill, trying to get it through the U.S. Senate. Basically, that's going to be the bill that saves hunting in America. We got involved in a little fight down there in Waddell's community there, where they were trying to ban bow hunting there. We got in the middle of that and curbed that. We have fought for access to disabled and veteran hunters with crossbows. And I actually sued the state of Wisconsin to force a wolf hunt for that little period of time when wolves were delisted. We filed lawsuits to make hunter education access available, more available. And I mean, we're doing that all over the country. But at our core, Doug, Hunter Nation is trying to turn out the American hunter to vote in numbers that historically they don't. And you know this, and it's tragic. I even hate to say this, because hunters, they're the best we the people that America has to offer, in my opinion.
Yep.
But they don't vote in big numbers, which is tragic. They're predominantly conservative, God, family, country, Constitution, love their families and the hunting lifestyle. But because they like to kind of keep everybody out of their business, they'll sweep their own back porch, but they don't want you on their porch unless they invite you. And that's mostly aimed at the government. They're self-reliant, rugged. They take care of their own families. And so they just historically have not voted. And when we recognized that problem, we said we have to fix this, because this demographic, when you're talking 16, 20 million of these people, if they would vote at least at the level of the general public or more, we could control the destiny of policymaking in America in perpetuity.
Yeah. I mean, you just dived into so much, and I always love to have this, especially when we do the hunting parts of our show. We do a lot of politics here, as my listeners know, but I believe that conservatives are well-rounded. I believe we talk about sports, we talk about hunting, we talk about our families, we talk about faith, we talk about, all kinds of stuff, and it all bleeds back into the political life or the social life. One of the things, though, that you've hit, and it's the trigger for all liberals out there, they think that they have this Disneyland view of grizzly bears, black bears, wolves, and we've sort of fantasized about these. These are wild animals. These, the old bison. Explain the wolf, because the first thing you'll hear from me, why would you want to kill the wolf? The wolf doesn't bother anybody. Oh, yeah. Explain exactly what happens when wolf populations, an apex predator, by the way, one that has, cunts at will. He's like, we have to understand, how does that affect the other animals in that ecosystem when they're not managed?
Well, let's talk about this. Back in the year 2000, Doug, let's take the state of Wisconsin. There was about 245 or 250 wolves on the Wisconsin landscape. In the year 2000, their deer harvest, rifle deer harvest, approached 700,000 deer. Now let's fast forward to 2023, and there's now well over 1,200 wolves in Wisconsin, and they had their lowest recorded deer harvest ever in Wisconsin, around 300,000 deer. 50% decrease, exponential increase in wolves. So now what's happened? I did a podcast this week with Representative Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin, and we had two guests. Literally put me into tears, Doug. One lady lived in Wisconsin. She was outside with her 11-year-old Chihuahua. They were 5 yards from her back door. The dog was 3 yards from her. A wolf dashed into their yard. She's yelling at the top of her lungs. The wolf had no fear of her, picked up her little dog, ran off with her chasing, trying to get the dog back, gone. Another guest on our show the other night was a guy also in Wisconsin whose mother-in-law let her 11-year-old golden or yellow lab out to use the restroom. A pack of wolves came in, killed the dog, drug it out in behind their house, and the pictures are so gruesome and so terrible. And so that's the result of what happens when wolves decimate deer populations in Wisconsin, and now they're looking elsewhere for food. And what her name is Denise, and the saddest thing she said to me, Doug, was, this is going to happen to a little child because the deer population is so decimated. These cute, cuddly little wolves that everybody wants to tell you won't hurt anything, that are now killing dogs at will, cattle, sheep, everything else. The children are going to be next. And I put on my social media today, this is so fixable. Tammy Baldwin, Senator Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, John Tester, Senator out of Montana, they can fix this instead of towing the party line and constantly not delisting wolves. They need to get on it. Ron Johnson, Senator Johnson out of Wisconsin, needs to jump hard on the rest of these people to push them through, because if this does happen to a child in Wisconsin, that activist judge in California will have blood on his hands. All these animal rights groups that are blocking it, they'll have blood on their hands. And so will these senators that are dragging their feet, delaying or flat blocking the delisting of the gray wolf, because the time has come to recognize science should control how we manage wildlife. And it's dangerous right now. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, all of those states.
Right. And it's, look, we're not talking about, I mean, sometimes we get this idea that a wolf is a German Shepherd they're not. The actual real wild, they're bigger. Okay.
That's right.
Much bigger. They're much stronger. Mm-hmm. They are, they run in packs. They're wild animals. They're not the tame dog you have in the house. They will kill the tame dog in your house
every time.
And it's not just that. They're killing the young, the fawns. They'll take turkey. They'll take anything. They'll kill it all. Mm-hmm. But also we're dealing with this as well, Keith, not just and I think we need to, as we talk about this, expand it out. Look at what's happened in areas on the bear population. Let's think about that one for a second. Mountain lion. And where you're getting Colorado, getting ready to, and look, I know the Governor Polis out there. I've served with him. No concept of hunting, no concept of order, but they're ready to let the mountain lion go. We're seeing bears and mountain lions in Los Angeles because of the crazy environmentalist, non-science activists here. How do we explain to people what we're dealing with here, Keith? Because I think, how do we break through that, what I said earlier, that Disney fantasy that these are talking bears, that they're good people, all you got to do is go up and pet them kind of thing. And they're seeing what they're doing in areas of our country where people are not just next, they're happening. People are already getting killed.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. I believe that this release of the wolf, the unmanaged bear populations, these unmanaged cougar populations, they really have one intent, and that is to destroy hunting. Think about the left as a general picture. They'll play the long game. They've done this and how they turn out the vote. But when we're talking about these apex predators, they know they can't vote hunting down, because if there was on the ballot in Georgia this year that hunting's going to be eliminated, the conservative candidates would win in a landslide, because hunters would come out and say, you're not
exactly.
And then they'd go ahead and vote that time. Okay. Yep. We, you, me, all of us that hunt and enjoy this lifestyle, my job, and I take it personally for 2024, is to make sure American hunters all across the country realize that our hunting lifestyle is on the ballot. Because if wolves destroy game populations, then the left is going to come and say, there's no reason to have guns because there's no hunting anymore. Turn them in. It's a gun. It's a way of them to grab guns and eliminate a demographic of people that are really the best, most rugged, most reliant marksmen. They know how to kill, they know how to gut, they know how to grill. And that scares the living bejesus out of these liberals. And so it's a tactic on their part to eliminate hunting. And that's why our C3 component of Hunter Nation, Doug, is all about informing the American hunter just how serious it is to get involved in the election process. Because how do we fix it? We'll never reason with the politicians that you talked about. The only way to fix it is to get politicians in positions of power that adhere to our values. And that means the hunting lifestyle. And if we vote the right guys and gals in, the problem will fix itself.
I agree. Let's explain something to the American people. I've done this many times on this show. I will continue to do it. And look, folks, I'll say this many times about it. Go to Hunter Nation, look them up online, go at it. I'm going to start doing the same. You just know, and that's why we got Keith on here. I want to be a spokesman in this regard because I see it just happening too much. And I see the left, many times giving into non-science, supposedly the science group, but they're hurting, our lifestyle. Because here's something, Keith, I want you to address. The environmentalists say they're helping our wildlife. They're helping our folks. The reality is, and it just sort of came back to me today, because today I had to renew my licensing here in Georgia for my sportsman, my hunter. It's just that my birthday is next week, and I just do it around my birthday. So I automatically renew it. And I was having to go through that today. And it just reminded me that a lot of the money that I pay for my license, when I buy ammo for my gun, when I do my bow, when I do all, there's taxes and excise taxes attached to that are the actual hunter. Explain how the hunter is actually the true conservation that is protecting all of this wildlife species and our public lands in what we do right now.
Right. And not to bore your listeners, but the Pittman-Robertson Act was enacted years back. And the purpose of that is that if you buy bows, binoculars, boots, guns, anything that pertains to the shooting sports and hunting, a percentage of that money it's sent directly back into conservation at the state level. It funds all the fish and game offices. It funds the restoration of habitat. And it takes care of not just game animals, but all animals in the state, whether we're talking about meadowlarks or buffalo. And that money from the fish and game departments is to take care of all of the animals and habitat in the state. And it's hunter dollars that do that. The PETA, Humane Society, Defenders of Wildlife, how much money do they pour into conservation? The answer is zero. Right. 100% of all of the money spent on conservation at the state and national level comes from hunter dollars, period, end of story.
Yep, it is. And I think people forget that. When I first got elected, I was in the state house before I ever went to Congress. And I remember somebody down in Georgia, and I was surprised by this. There was an environmental group, I don't know which one, ABC group, whatever you want to call them, but they came in and they tried to get me, there was a bill that was just not a good bill and it had to do with some streams and stuff like that and boundaries. And they said, well, we're here because it's the farmers and the hunters that are ruining our land. And I said, well, you just lost me right there. No need to continue this conversation. My granddaddy was a dairy farmer. My father-in-law, we've had farms. If farmers were not a part of North Georgia, where I'm at right now, we would have barren, red, scarred hills because that's all it would be here. And so how do we break through, though? Because the left has done a really good job at demonizing the hunter, the farmer, the ones who actually are doing the work. How do we break through on that one, Keith?
Yeah, again, it's all messaging. And that's what we do here at Hunter Nation. What we have found, and like I mentioned earlier, doing outdoor TV for 10 years, the model is very simple. We buy time from the network, and then we sell sponsorships to the bows, the binoculars, the bullets, and all those companies. And so then Michael Waddell comes into someone's home and he tells them why this is the right binocular, or this is why he uses this arrow. And so the hunter has been conditioned to trust Michael Waddell or Ted Nugent or Shawn Michaels or Cuz Strickland or a number of those people on there. So we take that exact same relationship. We reach out to the American hunters with the people they trust the most. And that's how we're messaging them on these exact issues that you and I are talking about, the importance of managing predators, especially the wolf, the importance of getting out and voting your values. And so that's how it's going to get done, Doug, is it's going to be influencers in the hunting and shooting space talking to other hunters and shooters about the importance of voting and informing them about all these critical issues. Something I should have said early on. I'm very proud of this. Hunter Nation just partnered with the National Rifle Association on all of our Get Out the Vote efforts, which is incredible because where we were at one time only reaching American hunters, now with our partnership with the NRA, we're also reaching Second Amendment supporters. Right. So it's exponentially increased our reach and potential voter turnout.
That is great. Hey, folks, I'm gonna turn to voter here in just a sec, Keith, because I want people to understand this. But right now, I do want, before we get, and I'm gonna do this again at the end. HunterNation.org is where you can go to join. I mean, for as low as $25 for a membership, $35 up to really $177 for an annual membership. You get a lot of cool stuff, but you're part of the solution. So again, before we'll mention this again at the end, but HunterNation.org. Get on there. I'm going to be getting my membership here pretty soon. I've been talking about this. This is something that means a lot to me on this podcast, and I want you to join it as well. But let's get back to some down home basics. You and I got into some. I loved it the other night when we first got to talk. By the way, we're going to shout out Chris Croft out in Kansas. By the way, we got to, because I know he listens to the podcast and his followers out there, dude. Chris, behave. We're watching you, buddy. As he goes, great guy out there helping. This fact. But as we get out and we get into politics, you and I got into the nitty gritty that hunters don't vote. We think about it. Georgia has a pretty good hunting population that does vote, but we've got a lot of places that don't. And then we've also got a lot of places that hunters are not all knuckle dragging conservatives that the liberal media want to portray us as, are they? Keith?
No, it's crazy. And this is the thing, and I'm going to give you some stats here. But, I wasn't involved in politics at all. I voted and I bitched a lot. And I knew how to solve all the problems like all the hunters do around campfires everywhere we would go. But I never really got real active in politics into 2016 when I first met President Trump, then candidate Trump.
Right.
And he said something to me that really changed the trajectory of my life. He said, hunters don't vote. And so I thought he was crazy, right? But as it turned out, almost like everything else that comes out of the guy's mouth, it's true. And so when we got into the research, hunters didn't vote. So in 2016, I worked with Nugent and Don Jr. And all we were trying to do is turn hunters out to vote because we thought at that time, if we can get hunters to vote, we'll win. The right equation will win. There was no Hunter Nation back then. So it was all about electing President Trump. Well, what we found is, and all these other groups that say they're going to turn out the hunter vote, that's not the way to go anymore. Take Wisconsin, for example, one of our top 5 states. If you just went up there to turn out the hunter vote, you're basically wasting your money because 44% of Wisconsin hunters don't share the same values of us. They'll vote on the wrong side of some of these God, family, country, constitution issues. So our group, we only target the 56% of hunters in Wisconsin that share my organizational values of God, family, country, and the Constitution. Take Georgia, for example. Got to put my glasses on for this. Not because I need them, Doug, because this makes me look so much smarter for your viewers.
No, you're looking good. I get it.
but in Georgia, there's about 1 million conservative hunters out there that we can attack. Georgia is actually one of the largest state when you break down the percentages. 78% of Georgia hunters are conservative. Only 22% of Georgia hunters will vote the wrong side of the equation. I think that's awesome. But we model out that 22%. And in Georgia alone, you're looking at about 419,000. Let that sink in for a second.
Yep.
419,000 conservative registered Georgia hunters that either did not vote in the last 2 presidential cycles or voted in only one.
Wow.
And you know as well as I know how close elections are in Georgia.
Yep.
It wouldn't even take us a whole lot to turn out a small percentage of that. And I'm going to just say this, and people are going to, say, oh, Keith, did you just really say it? Yeah, I did. Not only can we turn out enough hunters to be in the margin of victory for most races there, I think if hunters would vote in the numbers I know I can produce down there, we're going to exceed the margin of cheating.
Yep. It makes no difference. If people just show up, Keith, that's the problem. And you just said something right there. 419,000 in a state that is known for hunting, that is conserved. Look, we're not, again, I always say this about Georgia. Georgia's not Oklahoma. It's not Mississippi. We're not 70% one way or the other because we got 5 urban centers that shift that, especially Atlanta. But we're 54% a Republican state, have been conservative state. Even when it was Democrat, it was still relatively conservative, even on social issues. But when it comes to hunting, that astonishes me. So I sit here and I think about it. If 419,000 in Georgia, only one or none in the last, what are we talking about in like Tennessee, our North Carolina, Kentucky? I mean, Kentucky just flipped to a Republican, had a Democrat governor, won everything else. But again, is that hunter group not showing up? And then out west, I mean, there's got to be similar numbers when you get into some of these Colorados, Montanas, even though they got a lot of move-ins. I would have to imagine hunters could make a bigger difference even in some of those states, not just in a state like Georgia, but others as well.
You're 100% correct. Let me give you an example. In the 2023 gubernatorial election down in Louisiana, and again, Hunter Nation is a not-for-profit, so we don't tell anyone who to vote for. We don't endorse a party or a candidate. Did I mention Donald Trump Jr. is on my board of directors?
Yep.
He is. He's a big-time hunter. Again, we don't endorse a candidate or we don't say which party may be the best. But down in Louisiana, we targeted 165,000 low-propensity, conservative Louisiana hunters that had either not voted in 8 years or had only voted in 50% or less. And so we targeted them with direct messaging from the Swamp People, who are out of Louisiana, from Duck Dynasty out of Louisiana, Don Jr., who's a big-time hunter, Ted Nugent, big-time hunter. And guess what we were able to do in that governor's election? We put on the board 62,500 votes in an election that was decided by less than 18,000 votes. And here's the cool part. 21,700 of the votes I put on the board came from the group that had not voted in 8 years. So just with hunter to hunter messaging, we were able to basically be in the margin of that race. Now, I did a lot of national TV right after that. They said, oh my gosh, your group got Jeff Landry elected as governor down in Louisiana. And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't even know who won the election, but congratulations to Jeff Landry, because he must match the values of my group, which is God, family, country, and the Constitution. And I'd never met Jeff Landry before that. I did have the opportunity to meet him fairly recently. And you know what? Jeff Landry matches my organization's values of God, family, country, and the Constitution. Isn't that funny how that happens? And so if all hunters listen, and we'll just let this sink in for a second. If you go out and vote like those folks in Louisiana, which hunters performed at 57% in a state election that the turnout was 36%, we control who makes our rules and policy. Hunters could do this. There's over 16 million of us nationwide. There's not one state that I'm going to participate in that hunters won't be in the margin, and can be the margin and then some in every state, whether it's Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, or Arizona, which are my 5 key states.
Exactly. Well, I think that's the most important thing. Look, what I want, folks, this importance. And Keith, what we're going to do is we're going to get you back on probably in about 30, 45 days, right? As we're going to remind this again. So let's get an update on where these are happening. I know I'm working with America First Works, America First Policy Institute, others on getting people out. There's, I know we're sharing a lot of things going on, which we got to do, but I want to make sure that this stays front. I talked about hunternation.org. What else would you tell them to go and get involved with your organization? And then what can they do to help, their buddies? As you said, I love how you put that. How many life problems have you ever could have solved either sitting around a boat around a dock on a boat or at a hunting camp?
Yeah. Well, let me just say this to you. If you were in a bar and 10 guys came in and were going to fight you, and would you feel great about that if you looked around behind you and there was no one there? Or would you feel great if you looked around behind you and there were 50 of your buddies wearing camo? You win the fight probably without throwing a punch, and that's what we're trying to do here with these hunters. If you go to hunternation.org, you can join, be a member. We're trying to be the biggest grassroots army that anyone's ever seen in America. The other thing is, if you're not registered, or if you're not sure if you're registered, go to huntthevote.org, huntthevote.org, click your state. It's so easy. This was designed by bow hunters like myself. to be simple so bow hunters like myself can understand. And so it'll tell you whether you can go, it'll send you right to the appropriate website. You can register right there. If you are registered, it'll tell you when your next election is. If you want an absentee ballot or you want to vote early, it's going to give you all of those rules right there. That's huntthevote.org. And we're going to have a brand new thing coming up. It's called 10X Hunt. And so what we're going to ask all of our hunting friends to do is go there, press a button, and you'll write in. You can check, hey, is Doug Collins really vote? And you can punch your buddy's name in and see, do they vote? And if they don't vote, you're going to find out. If they do, it's going to find out. And if they don't match your values, you're going to get a little message that says, hey, your buddy may not see the world the way you do. Fix him, from Ted Nugent. So yeah, so it's cool. You know what? It's going to take, just like our founding fathers, from tavern to tavern, church to church, meeting hall to meeting hall. Hunters must convince other hunters. You must get registered and then go vote your values.
That's it, folks. You just heard it perfectly right there. And that's why Keith Mark's on. Keith Mark's a friend. He's going to become a better friend as we get to know each other more. And I appreciate him and his organization. A lot of the other folks, maybe we'll get on later on. We'll get Ted on. We'll get even Don or some others on to come and continue to talk about this, because it's something I'm going to keep talking about. Folks, I want you to go hunternation.org. Go out there. Join me. I'm joining. You join. But then also, more than that, go to huntthevote.org, but also start talking to your friends. Don't let them get caught up in what the liberal media and everybody else wants to portray. Elections do matter. And if you don't vote, I've said this before, Keith, maybe the first time Keith's heard me say it, but you've heard me say it before on this podcast. If you don't vote, then I do not want to hear you complain about your government. I do not want you to write into a congressman. I don't want you to call into a talk show. I don't want you to say anything. If you won't vote your values, then basically you just need to shut up, because you're not doing what our country's been giving you the freedom and the right. And for those of us who served, who've done it for 245 years, have given you the ability to go vote. So go vote. Keith Mark, Hunter Nation, thank you so much for being a part today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate all you do, Doug.
All right. Thanks so much.